Hello, Elena. Hello, Alejandro. I'm so happy to have you today. Thank you for coming.
Hello.
Hi, Maria.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. I was very happy to discover you because, being an Ayurveda practitioner, I was looking for someone who can help me. And I was looking for someone who have a background in the natural medicine, but also have this deeper understanding of health and life. And this is how I met you. Could you share a little bit about your brand, your mission, what you do, and what is your true calling in this world?
Well, it's a big mission. So I'll share a little bit about our mission, but Alejandro and I come from completely different backgrounds. So overall, we're under the brand of Holistic. And the main mission for Holistic, of course, is merging spirituality and medicine as one. Because to me, I come from a background of medicine over 25 years as a clinical pharmacist, board certified in functional medicine. And then in 2007, moving into the quantum healing realm, I realized that there is a massive gap between those that are being trained in allopathic medicine, which is absolutely needed. We can never deny that because everyone might come up at some point in their life with acute conditions. So it will be very important to treat that. But there was a massive gap between that and chronic conditions. And the medical system is absolutely not addressing it. And then there's the opposite end of that, the spiritual community, that I realized taking people on this journey of spiritual awakening and in a way making a lot of promises, but completely disregarding the physical system. So I realized that this gap needed to merge because we're overall body, mind, and soul beings, right? We're not physical, we're not just spiritual, we're not mental, we're all of the above. And then Alejandro came into my life, and together we created a system that is truly remarkable. We started reading people using scalar wave technology, frequencies of people and places, tracking people through their entire life from the moment of incarnation into where they are today, looking at events, situations, emotions, and looking at the frequencies throughout a person's life. And people might wonder, why is it important? It is very important because it gives you a snapshot into how you came in, where you are today. And I always say it's sort of like getting your blood work done when you go to the doctor. For those that do, you want to know what your cholesterol is like, what your glucose is like. This is really looking into your entire being and seeing what you've gone through, where you are today. And if you do decide you want to make changes in your life, because it's all individualized, right? You know exactly where to focus your attention. And for those people that do have their vibrational analysis done, they have the ability to really shift, and in most cases right away, just by becoming aware of where they stand. So our mission, of course, we've created a global community. I know I'm over talking you.
No, you're not.
A global community, I would say, of heart-centered people. And we always say that Tuesdays is our favorite day. Usually we get together on most Tuesdays. We share vibrational frequencies of people, places, devices, medical systems, right? And then we answer lots of questions, and together through that community, we've been able to grow as well as individuals, because everything is part of that system.
Yes, definitely. It has helped us tremendously as well, without knowing exactly where we're being headed. As we interact with individuals and they share their stories, and they share their aha moments, and as we reveal their frequencies, right? And they share their struggles, we realize that everyone plays an important role. And this is just all about recognizing that we hold the power to transcend, and we hold the power to experience that which we desire to experience, right? And that when we do the lifetime frequency analysis, it gives the person like a bird's eye view. You're able to see it from a higher perspective, to where past, present, and future are really are before your eyes. And that is very empowering, because not only you realize that what is possible, because of you see what you have been able to overcome, and most of the time on autopilot, right? As we gain more awareness, then, and we realize that we hold the power, that we create with our thoughts, then it gets easier and easier to release the resistance and experience more of who we truly are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm wondering, what is your background? Because Elena mentioned it, you mentioned this very briefly, that you are from different backgrounds. And as I see you, Elena, as someone who is coming from this allopathic medicine, then traditional Chinese, and then merging this with spiritual approach. So I wonder what you are contributing to this team, Alejandro.
Well, I don't know. I think that question would be better formulated to Elena. Let's see, Elena, what am I contributing to this team? So I don't influence her opinion, you know?
You could share.
You know, it was, that's a great question. For me, I was always interested in numbers as a kid, right? And I went in to study economics, and then I was in financing for many years. And always interested in numbers. I always thought that the numbers speak for themselves, not only tell you the story when it comes to a business, how healthy the business is, how well run the business is, right? But also much more. And then I related that to birth dates, and I went into numerology, you know, but then I realized, okay, nowadays the new trend is about people that claim to be high vibe, and how do we know if they're truly high vibe people, right? And then we feel that, I don't know, but if that's what high vibe is, what is low vibe? You know, that could be a little scary. Sometimes we came across situations like that. So just really wondering, one, how can we see if the actual person is high vibe or low vibe, or where they're at when it comes to the scale of consciousness? And then by reading the book of David Hawkins, is that we realized, based on intuition, that there were some discrepancies, right? The core overall is a beautiful foundation that really facilitated what we created. Mm-hmm. We created that from that foundation, what he brought to us, you know, and especially referring to the book Power versus Force. But from there, just our curiosity, imagination, and merging the facts with intuition is how we begin to explore it and go deeper into it. And I will say that a lot has to do with wanting to experience something greater. You know, I had my own struggles, and I was very committed to personal growth, as Elena was and is, and we are. And so pair that with imagination and curiosity, and wanting to share something not only based on intuition, but pair it with some facts so we can have a solid argument too, you know? So that's really, I would say that my imagination and creativity, along with my intuition, is really what I offer, what I bring to the table.
I would say also your commitment to your own personal growth and helping other people, because he doesn't mention that he takes people on at least 12-week journeys, raising their vibrational frequencies. So this is a big part of something he does. Yes. I focus more on health aspect, and Alejandro focuses on frequency, raising the frequency and soul aspects of a person.
Soul healing, yes. And that comes from my own experience, right? That I wanted to to transcend my limiting beliefs. And so I listened, attended, and read books, and you can
practice
enough. And I felt that I figured out what was most important. And I realized that it's about mind, body, and soul connection, and that we have to be committed to it. There's no magic pill. There's no one-time shift, although it can happen at any time, any given moment. But we have to be fully invested in the process, right?
So that's what he contributes.
Yes,
the soul journey experience.
Yes, I'm very passionate about interacting with people and sharing what I've learned because of what I've been through. I put myself out of the trenches too. I've fallen wanting to experience something different. I was no longer satisfied, I will say, with the earthly offerings, the material world, and I wanted to experience something greater, and also leave a mark in this world to impact the human collective in a good way. Back then, when everything started, I had no idea about vibrations or frequencies or anything like that, Yes.
And also what you do, what I pick up from what you said, the numbers part is something that you contributed, because this is what I love in your approach, that there is a lot of descriptive qualities, I would say, a lot of this, easy to follow words, beautiful narration, but there are also numbers, and numbers speaks to more scientific, analytical mind. And I know that for many of my clients who are opening up for higher frequencies, so to say, for a different level of communication, they need more data, so to say, and numbers are kind of data. So it's easier for them, based on numbers, to relate to the story that comes with the numbers. And this is what I love about Hawkins' method, that it gives you the scale. So you can see that there is a difference between 100 and 200. Yeah, you can feel it, you can see it, you can measure it. And then using description, you can actually describe what are the qualities behind every number. And I saw you doing this over and over again with people, places, with, curiosities of our modern world. And it was very appealing to me because it was very it's something solid that we can talk about, we can compare it, and we can see how it's changing over their life.
Yes, for just as important it was for Alejandro, for me as well. I'm a very logical person, even though I employ my intuition all the time. I do feel that it is part of our existence on this planet. It's the same way as we cannot separate physicality and our soul experience, right? There's both. Physicality, I think, is much more linear in many ways, right? And then the soul is much more intuitive. So it's having that experience and appreciating both. And this is why I think the future and where the science is moving into is into these quantum realms, the quantum physics, because it is taking the basic physics principles and mathematics and now moving into the quantum realm. So where time is not linear, right? Oftentimes you hear people say, oh, this is the timeline that we are projecting ourselves into. And these are not necessarily the right conversations to have, because there is no timelines. Time is not linear, even though this is how we've been taught to perceive reality, right? But it's important to have the concept understood both from linear and non-linear perspective and merge the two together.
Yeah, so let's start with the first one, the linear concept, because what I really loved in your teaching is this difference between what you called as the frequency of incarnation, so the very, very beginning of life, and then the frequency, at the birth time. So what I saw here also for me personally, when I done the vibrational analysis with you, is the drop that you can have, that one can have between the starting frequency, and the frequency just 9 months later. And for me, it was really amazing how low it can go, how massively the pregnancy time can impact oneself, and how, you know, what are the consequences for the lifetime.
Would you like to start?
Yeah, please.
I will. Okay. So for us, it's been so many aha moments. First of all, reading literally thousands of people now. So we have a lot of data. And this is the part that I think, the juicy part that you will like, and you already know because you've been part of this revelations. So what we're finding is majority of human beings, so again, there's exceptions to the rules, okay, have a massive drop from incarnation, which is point of conception, when the soul decides to enter the reality, and then the moment of birth. Most human beings are born at the frequency of 100, which is fear and worry. There are some cases where we see frequencies of 50 and 75. So these, I would say, are the most common frequencies at birth. Now, something else that we have not shared with our community, but Alejandro has great ideas.
As usual, you read my mind.
I just read your mind, you see. So this is how we just discovered something, because Alejandro said, we need to test this. So you haven't heard, this is the first time you're actually hearing this. We wanted to know if, because there's one term that we test, and it's alignment with divine purpose, right? So this is one of the most important numbers that people usually want to know about. And based on where you are in life, it can vary. So we haven't done a lot of testing throughout the life. But what we've discovered is at birth, in our testing, the alignment with divine purpose is at 100%. So that also tells us that we choose the frequency we're born at. And it creates the contrast. So incarnation could be, let's say, 250, birth would be 50. So we have these two parameters of what the contrast of the polarity or duality feels like. Mm-hmm. And then it gives you, so then the other thing we started tracking is emotions, because we all inherit emotions for the 9 months or 7 months, if you're in utero, that you're being baked in. And those are your mom's emotions, right? So, you know, for you, we gave those to you. But it's something interesting that we've discovered. It's not only your mom's emotions and the environment, in utero environment of what your mom is experiencing, right? And therefore, all these things become yours. But the other thing that we realized, a lot of times the emotions are passed on from your ancestors, from your grandmother, right? From your great grandmother. And if your mom wasn't conscious to work through those emotions, or she didn't have the right tools, or the information wasn't there, she wasn't aware, those things will be passed on to you. So oftentimes when people reach out to us, it's because they're ready to know this information. And therefore, this is how the pattern of passing it forward is going to shift. Because once you create the change in yourself, you're stopping that karmic ancestral cycle in many ways moving forward.
Mm, yeah. I remember my first Ayurveda teacher told me that Ayurveda is about changing DNA. And actually, according to what you are sharing, it's so true that once you are healing yourself, you are unpacking the information and changing it for the next generations to come.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, there's a beautiful confirmation of what we have been sharing prior to this discovery of confirmation, was that we decide from a higher perspective as to which frequencies we want to experience in this lifetime, you know? So where, when, and with whom we want to experience these frequencies with, right? And our parents are our first team of facilitators. They're providing the, you know, this boot camp of contrast per se, but because we wanted it to be that way, you know. So that's say it's a beautiful confirmation that everything is divinely orchestrated.
Mm. Yeah, I love this about your analysis there, that there is not much judgment, although it's very, you know, the numbers are there. There is not much of this judgmental approach, and you keep repeating that this is a choice of this particular soul, that he or she raised her hand when the question was asked, what is the frequency that you want to experience? And some of us raised their hand for 50, and some of us raised our hand for 500. And all is good, because it comes back to the personal choice for this particular lifetime.
Exactly.
Yes, there's a couple of things I also want to mention about preconception, because I believe that it's important. There's this new thing that's coming out, it's preconception medicine, but I think that also preconception awareness is very important, because if you are somebody who cares about your own growth, it's important that you connect and clear your womb space before you bring new life. For those that are, of course, are aware enough and are interested, this is key. There's many other patterns that we've noticed, but as far as frequencies, I just want to say, look at life this way. We've talked about this often, that life is like a movie unfolding in front of our eyes. And there's different cast playing out different roles. So each soul, as you said, comes here and volunteers. Someone signs up to be the Batman in the movie, the good guy, let's just say, and somebody else will sign up for the role of the Joker. They're both actors, so it's not about them being good or bad, but they're here to play a role. And this is really our biggest message to humanity, is not to point fingers and blame another person for your experience, because ultimately you are participating in this experience, but also recognize what we choose to call people with low vibrational frequencies. Before we call them shadow players, we decided it's important to acknowledge them and call them the great awakeners, because those low frequencies are here to contribute to the light and to awaken those of us that are ready to raise up our own frequency and stand in that high frequency and own it fully. Because guess what? People in the 50s and 20s who incarnated that frequency, come in at that frequency, they own it 100%.
Yeah, that's also interesting from your analysis. And coming back to this understanding of the shadow or players, or low frequency players, as you call them now, I remember the time when I had a dream about Adolf Hitler. It was about 3 years ago. It was a very powerful dream, because in this dream, he had a swollen leg and I was called to take care of his leg. And I was just using some herbal medicine, and he was asking me, how do I know? And I was sharing some stories about my grandma, that she was suffering with this, so I know. And I'm just passing what I know from my home to him. And when I woke up, I just saw this man in completely different way than I used to saw him, and all the story connected with this. And from this time, I felt that I've changed, and it's easier for me to really see those kind of people and players in a gentle way, in a loving way, see that they contributed, as you say, their part for us to raise our awareness of who we are, to kind of contrast the darkness that they represent with the light that is inside of us.
Yes. In every tragedy, and this is absolutely not to take away that those shadow players commit some of the worst crimes in humanity, right? They're the murderers, the horrific things that have happened. But to understand from a higher perspective, of course, he was here for a reason, but also finding the gifts. This is the key, is to find the gifts in tragedies. And, you're speaking of that time of the Holocaust. Of course, there's some incredible therapist physicians that came out, like Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you've ever read the book, right? Man's Search for Meaning. We just revealed the book actually in our community. And these are the gifts, is people that are able to take the most tragic situations and bring something beautiful to humanity, even though they have seen the darkest of the dark, right? They witnessed, they were there, but they have this way of, I would say it's an innate ability. In most cases, probably those people are born with the ability to see gifts in the darkest times. But it's something that I think all of us can practice. on a daily basis, because it's the difference between the mindset of victim mentality, what we call the victim mentality's frequencies of 200 and below, where you think that the world is against you, life is happening to you, you're not in control, versus those people that are in the frequencies above, which is the activation phase, where you realize everything is connected and I can co-create my reality despite the challenging situations in my life, right? So it's knowing where people stand and choosing, do you want to participate in that game of life of playing with shadow players? And maybe some people choose to do that. And then if you know you're in the light, then you can make a different choice in your life, right? And surround yourself with people who are in the light. But somehow we always have people with lower frequencies pop up in our life as a reminder. Are you really standing on the side of light? Are you?
Mm-hmm. I would say that everyone is a light worker.
Yes.
Just some of us turn it on, others turn it off.
Yes.
or dim it,
Dim
right?
it.
Because it cannot be fully turned off.
Great insight. Thank you for this, because what I'm sharing with my clients for over 2 years now, it's a metaphor of a lighthouse. And that's exactly what I'm saying, that it's a matter of your choice, how bright you want to shine. But the quality of a lighthouse is already there. You can just turn it on or dim it.
Perfect, yes.
You tuned into her. The other thing, actually, I just shared this the other day in a little video, which I think was one of the most fascinating latest discoveries, besides the checking the frequency for the divine alignment at birth, right? The frequency of how we're born. The other thing is we found a pattern that people that are born to the traumatic wound, which is a lot of people, right? But we're talking about trauma such as maybe there were miscarriages, right, before. And this is something that we've realized. Miscarriages, maybe a woman miscarried a child at, let's say, 7 months pregnancy, and then she had a child, the next child was born, who's an adult now. There's cases of them being born at 7 months. Mm-hmm. And it was very traumatic experience, right? And usually those babies will be in NICU, okay, in the hospital for a little while. And then as adults, you see that these people, regardless whether it's male or female, they make decisions that they don't want to have children in this lifetime. That's number one. And number two, they feel they don't belong in this reality. Like often, I don't know how often you see that with your clients, but they'll say, I just want to go home. And I say, where's home? And they'll say, it's not on earth. I don't want to be here. So this is, again, the pattern that is linked to the traumatic womb that hasn't been healed. So again, it's an invitation to perhaps explore your relationship with your mother, see what your mom went through. Also, what did your grandmother go through? There's a great book, right? That what did you want to say?
Yes, if I may add a little bit.
Yes.
That to do it just because you want to experience more joy, mm-hmm. right? That way we're not bringing guilt or shame into the equation, thinking that we have to do this, or that I didn't do enough, or am I doing enough for the new energy being to come through, or the baby to come through, because it doesn't matter what one does. The energy being that is going to come through is going to be one who asked for that particular experience, right? So if we do it is because we want to explore the possibility of experiencing a higher frequency, a higher level of consciousness, higher level of joy, Yes.
It's a very good point, because sense of guilt is the emotion that many moms feel, especially those who are learning this afterwards. So for example, no preparation for pregnancy whatsoever, very little consciousness during the pregnancy, and then chaotic, challenging first 5 years. And then she discovered, Ayurveda, traditional medicine, frequency analysis. And sometimes at this time, mothers or fathers as well are just full of regrets, have this guilt. And I understand that, you know, based on what you said, that actually the soul who is incarnating through this particular woman is choosing the frequency. So it's good, yeah? It's exactly how it should be. And then later on, if this person chooses to explore it, it's just for the sake of joy, increasing her or his awareness, and not to compensate for something to someone.
Exactly.
Yes, because we've also seen cases where people will come to us and then they'll blame their parents. And we always say it is not about blaming, it's about appreciating for what they have provided or facilitated for you as a contrast, because now you understand. Because who are we? Our hair, our skin, we are all of our ancestors, right? Every nail, every tooth, your eyes, your eyelashes, it is generations back, your mother, your father. You are the beautiful expression of true love of everyone that came before you. So it's really about appreciating, and every generation goes through their own struggles, but celebrating yourself and the life, because they're all celebrating us here.
Yeah, I know I remember some very deep and touching conversation about this true love between the parents when it comes to people who are, you know, with the stories of rape, for example, or some violence at the very beginning. Then we are coming back to the essence of life, to this particular spark of energy that decided that this part of the human being will connect with this one and form a life. So it's not always the love, like, you know, romantic love, which I can see looking at you, for example. Sometimes it's just love as the purest form of creating new life, despite the circumstances.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, there was a book I was going to share. I've started referencing it quite often with, because someone in our community said, look, some of the things that you've shared, I didn't go through it, but I discovered when I was 40 that this is my mom has experienced, right? And this person's mom passed away. And she said that she realized that she was reliving her mom's experience without being an actual witness to it when she was younger. And she said there was a book that she discovered, and it's an excellent reference, and it's called It Didn't Start With You. And it's looking into 3 generations. I know you've heard us probably mention it, 3 generations, right, of trauma. And look, one of those generations, of course, they look into the people that went through Holocaust, and they're finding that actually the 3rd generation, the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, have this massive trauma. Or looking into the American Indians, and they're finding American Indians have some of the highest suicide rates in the United States, and seeing that where is it coming from? And it's coming from the oppression that was happening to the grandparents. Again, they're finding it that it's changing very specific genes, so the DNA, as you mentioned earlier. So absolutely, by healing yourself, you're healing your own DNA. You're reactivating some of the things that have been dormant for generations, and moving forward, therefore, you're healing the future generation.
Actually, this is the book that I recommend for, I think, at least last 6 years, because actually this particular kind of branch of understanding we have really well developed in Polish. My good friend is really like an expert in this healing in the past, you know, bringing some old wounds and old traumas that you are not even aware of. And also when you mentioned the experience from the pregnancy time, for me, the absolute game changer was to understand the dynamic of lost twin during the pregnancy. And I see this pattern in many of my clients. So you mentioned the miscarriage before, but there is also a huge rate of miscarriages during the twin pregnancy, yeah? When the one soul is living, and the other stays with this sense of kind
Abandonment.
of, and also of missing something, which is, it was very interesting for me because I discovered that it's deeper than missing the mom, because sometimes the disconnection after birth gives you this, I miss the connection with mom, but sometimes it's even earlier. missing.
It's the longing. It's
yes,
the longing.
It's the longing. It's feeling of being alone, left. Sometimes guilt also guilt of being alive.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's very difficult to cope with that, right?
Especially if you're not aware of it, but knowing where you stand has so many possibilities of bringing healing and balance and harmony into one's life.
Yes, some sense of clear direction too, and use that to use that as a point of reference, right? Like you mentioned, numbers give you that sense of sense of direction.
Validation too. You know, most humans want to be witnessed. This is one of the most important things in life, is to feel like what you're feeling and your life experience is not in vain. And it is important to have that somebody that can reassure you as a witness. And the numbers give deep insight and perhaps something that you've never been able to have as confirmed to you, right? So in a way, we give many confirmations to people.
And touching this topic, what I discover working with clients, that sometimes their suffering is beyond verbal, because it originates in the time where words were not present in the womb. And I remember this was very powerful insight from my session with you, that I understood the feelings that I'm not capable of dealing with when it comes to analytical mind. I'm a psychologist, yeah? The knowledge of emotions should be in my little finger, but somehow it's useless because of the code, different code in which the emotions and experience are written, so to say, in my body. And I know that the analysis that you provide gives insight into those emotional states and patterns which a kid in the womb experience through mom. And then you give the numbers, yeah? You give the names. So it's a great tool to start to unpack and bring those into this verbal consciousness, so to say. Because I see it for many clients who are reaching the wall when it comes to physical health, but also spiritual, disconnected from the body, that they lack, they feel that there is not appropriate tool to address some suffering, because it's from a different era, so to say, yeah, in development.
Yes, that's very, very interesting and extremely important to view it that way, right? Because it can help the person to, like you said, to unpack all this unwritten information in a way, right? Or undescribed, unexplained, because there was not enough information to correlate that with, you know, written in a different language.
Yes, yes. The other thing that is so important, you know, even though we reveal numbers, people who don't know, they'll say, oh, why are you guys comparing? And this is one of our biggest messages. There's no two journeys alike. So for somebody that will overcome frequencies of 50 and 100, which is a lot of people, right? If you think about the human collective, it takes tremendous amount of work, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And we call it the hero's journey. So we want every human being to understand that we're all heroes of our own journey. And it's not about looking up to someone, but to recognize and find that hero within, right? And that has been our probably most profound experiences, to witness people's journeys. And it's always extremely humbling to us how much people go through. And, you know, if you just stop yourself for a moment, all of us, right? And just go into that deep connected state and have the compassion for yourself, then you'll be able to have that compassionate lens to understand that every person is going through some kind of suffering in their life, whether it's related to their work, relationships, right? Whatever that might be. So it gives you a deeper appreciation for all human beings. So therefore the comparison is, as Alejandro said before, is an act of violence against yourself.
Yes, against your inner being. Although your inner being is not looking at you through the eyes of judgment. So that act of violence is really, it doesn't impact your inner being, right? Because it's at a higher perspective. But it's an act of violence in a way, I say it so people pay attention, because we're bringing resistance. Yes. As soon as we begin to compare ourselves with other people, to our journeys to other journeys. So that resistance is somewhat related to that violence that I say, right? So it's more, it's slowing down the process of expansion and the process of experiencing higher levels of joy and peace and harmony and bliss, right? That we do when we tend to compare ourselves to other people.
I love this message. This is something that I keep repeating to my clients. If you want to compare yourself with someone, just do it with yourself from, let's say, a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago. And this can be beautifully seen in your analysis, that you can see the incarnation frequency, that you can see this drop during the pregnancy. And then you can see how it was, with some tools, it can be raised up. And for me, fascinating is that sometimes it's raising up to the initial frequency, and sometimes it goes beyond, which is even more joyful to kind of, to go through the initial point. And then the only reference is the lifetime of this particular person. And I love this approach, and I think it's very unique, because in the spiritual world, we tend to, there's this narration that says that only those people are like full of light, those wearing white and chanting mantras all day long and not smoking and things like this. But you have different approach, which is holistic, which is like a complete system, but it's also very very focused on individual. So yes, with full respect for this particular lifetime, and not throwing everyone into the same bag with white cloth and chanting mantras.
Yes. And all the answers we carry within us, right? And everyone, as long as they strengthen their conviction that they're carrying God's energy within them, and that God's energy is experiencing life through them, viewing life through their eyes, touching through their fingers, and it's just waiting for them to reach out to and allow that energy to guide them, right? So there's no need to look for outside sources to assist us, and to guide us, but not to do the work for us, and not to we neglect the wisdom that we carry, and the access that we carry to all that is.
Mm-hmm. And coming back to your vibrational revelations, I see it as a kind of guidance, because I feel it for myself, and also many clients keep repeating this, that sometimes they feel that the certain, social platform, certain person, or certain, event has a certain frequency. But how do you know if you are based on information, and information is so biased nowadays and full of censorship, although we are told it's different, it's actually very, very influenced. That I see your community as a way, that we can actually check what is the frequency of this invention, this platform, this person, this event, and then based on this, we can kind of confirm what we felt in the first minute, and we couldn't, I couldn't tell why, but I felt it is like this. So it gives you this reassurance that actually you are reading the word in a right way, in a good way, that you pick up the underlying frequency.
Yes, so frequencies have a way of revealing what is. And for us, sometimes we do have surprises because we don't know. Sometimes we don't know, because a lot of times, like, our members in our community will post, we'll post requests, right? And we'll say, okay, so a lot of our episodes are based on our community members' requests, because it is a mutual process.
You can see, the current topics, yeah?
Very current topics. So it's fascinating to see that through these numbers, which we reveal usually over 30 categories. Well, if it's for a person, right? If it's for a business or books, now we started to incorporate, or sacred sites or platforms, which this coming next week, we're doing spiritual platforms. That will be a new episode. It gives you clarity of something, as you said, perhaps you've been feeling it, but sometimes people don't follow what they feel. They just say, oh, the ego takes over and says, oh no, that looks good. This is the platform I definitely can attach to and base my information on or from. So we give that lens for you then to decipher if this is the right place for you. And here's a very interesting thing that we've discovered. There are different teachers for every journey in our life, right? So let's say if you are a person whose frequency is at 100, perhaps a teacher who is at a frequency of 700 will not be your teacher because there's too much of a gap. So you would be seeking most likely a teacher that's 200 and 250. So it's not to say that when we reveal teachers at frequencies of 200 or 250, that they're not valid teachers, that they're irrelevant. Absolutely not. So remember this, at every journey, there's a teacher, and sometimes we outgrow the teachers, right? And this is why when you go to school, you go from, let's say, kindergarten to 12th grade, your teachers also change. So just like life, you graduate and you move on and you expand your awareness. So therefore, it's about appreciating, this teacher served their role, played that role at the time where my frequency was, let's say, 50 or 200, right? And now you're like, oh, this teacher no longer resonates with me. Again, it's about appreciation. So you receive more clarity into perhaps why certain things don't align with you. So it's not because something is wrong with you, but because you've outgrown that system and that teacher.
You begin to recognize that, I have the ability to discern and determine what path is the best path for me, or what platform is the best platform for me, what teacher is better aligned with me. All it takes is to be open and pay attention. Pay attention to the way you feel when you're watching the teacher, or the way you feel when you're reading the book, or when you're watching a movie as well, because everything has its own frequency, right? And then therefore, the longer we entertain that frequency, then the bigger this snowball gets. Like the snowball effects begins as we focus our attention toward a specific thought. They vibrate at a specific frequency, and therefore, the bigger the snowball gets, the easier will be to attract alike. So the best is to focus on that which we want to experience more, right? So that we can create this snowball effect that gets bigger and bigger, and then it's easier and easier to attract that which we want to experience.
So back to the community, for us, again, it's just revealing information and then having open-minded discussions. There is no right or wrong ever. And this is the biggest thing in our community. We don't say this is right and this is wrong. We just give information and then let's just explore further.
I love this, but at the same time, it gives trust. It helps to nourish this trust to your own judgments, quote unquote, that you actually felt it this way, that this teacher was, or this object was kind of closer, or this felt distance. And in this world which is populated by fashion and trends and topics that you want to be closer to, sometimes you feel that actually it's not your person, it's not your place to go, it's not your color to wear. And I feel your message really helps to reassure these feelings that one have about the word, the phenomena of that can be seen in the world. So it's very beautiful work because it's like a guidance then you can choose. But in the process of making this choice, you can actually also trust in yourself more. So, and back to what you said, Alejandro, you are guided from within. All the answers are within. We are just not, sometimes we are just not ready to acknowledge. Yeah, we are too septic to really believe in how powerful we are, because there is a possibility within each of us to go up to 1,000. Yeah, enlightenment frequency, it's there.
It's like we ask the universe or God and say, well, show me that I can do this, or show me that this is that you're actually able to do this or make this happen for me. But God, the universe, is asking you, well, show me your frequency, show me your vibrational frequency, show me your alignment. And so it's all about that, realizing that we can create, right? And then we have to pay attention to what resonates with us and to what is in alignment with us, in order to allow whatever it is that we want to experience to flow freely into our reality.
And closing up with some practical steps, I know that you also have courses which are helping to raise the vibrational frequency on the weekly basis. Yeah, I saw some of your research that you actually were checking the vibrational frequency at the very beginning and then at the very end, and you could see how it's growing. I know because some of my clients, some of people, they need help. Like, okay, it sounds really nice, it's good to know, but I need to go up. And then you have tools to actually bring people up.
Yeah, so one of the biggest tools, of course, is Alejandro takes people one-on-one in the journey, although you're coming up with a program soon as well. But there's some online courses I don't know if you've taken any of them, but the online programs that you're referring to, one of them is Ignite Your Codes of Consciousness. And this is the program. Alejandro actually did the soul progression with me. And this is the program that came through. That is fully channeled body of work. One of the unique programs that I have. And we did have 170 people attend online, and we measured the frequencies before and after. And it's actually one of my favorite, and probably it has the biggest signups out of all of my programs that I have. I don't know if you had a chance to take it. So that's the one.
Ignite the Codes of Consciousness.
Ignite the Codes of Consciousness. That's a great one. There's little programs like Generate Unlimited Love, which we will go through actually and measure frequencies of all of them. We just haven't gotten to it yet. There is a health and wellness program. There is a diet program, DAYA, and that's a 6 weeks journey of going through your senses, 6 senses, which is important to have because, as I mentioned earlier, if we just want to exit this reality and focus on meditation and alternate realities, what we're doing is disconnecting from our human experience. So it's important to reconnect and recheck back with yourself. So that's another program that I have, and it's going through the senses, tasting, smelling, right? Having that full-blown experience.
Yeah, I know. Just one sentence comes to my mind. We do have more teachers like you, and you being a couple, it's such a lovely experience also to bring the both aspects, of the mind, of the physical. Is like additional pleasure to this. And what I mean by this, that we do need more teachers, that we actually are, we are in need of this deeper connection between the spiritual, between the intellectual, logical mind and the physical as well, seeing as a whole. Yeah, I always repeat this to my clients, that Ayurveda is about mind, body, and soul equally important, like 33% here, 33 here. So it's, addressing all of this. It's your holistic approach, and I really appreciate what you do. So thank you for being you and your continuous work on this, because the new episodes are just revealed every Tuesday. So I know it takes some work to actually nourish the community on a weekly basis.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to meet you today.
Yes, thank you. We hope
the feeling is mutual.
It brought a spark of curiosity to each person listening. Our goal is to seed more compassion and love into this world. So hopefully it came through today.
Yeah, it's coming through the Buddha image behind you from the very minute. Yeah. So for the people who are sensitive to Buddha message, is from the very first second of seeing you. The message of compassion to oneself and to another is just coming through the screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.